Alright guys, next up is the Dark Gigas fight. This is a magical fight. It's a human, weak to wind and earth. And this is the fight that most people are a little bit irritated at because the damage cap is 20 billion, and hitting 20 billion with earth or wind mages is next to impossible. Technically possible, but barely. So my team is not going to come anywhere near 20 billion. Nowhere close. The team that you're looking at can do somewhere between 6 to 10 billion on average. So an average of about 8, a high of around 10, a minimum of around 6. And you might be wondering, like, why is Wilk here for a magical fight? Well, basically, he's going to be bringing a 250 human killer buff for the party, as well as a good defense break, because we're going to be using Elena as our #1 damage dealer, because, like, I don't have all the good real mages, so Elena is like literally my best damage dealer on this fight. So and breaking defense helps her because she's a hybrid damage dealer. Anyway, here's the party we're going to use. We're going to get into it. I will post the turn chart at the end. As far as the boss himself, he does a lot of earth damage and some single target wind damage. So with a Provoker with 220 wind resist after a buff, and then, you know, Sylvie for earth buff, this is basically whatever. Very easy to deal with as far as the incoming damage. Alright, so to start off, we're going to have Wilk use his shifted LB to start powering it up. We're going to have Sylvie do, let's see here. Got a little turn chart here that I'll post in the comments. We're going to do Vines, we're going to do Compassion, and we're going to do Resolve. Let's see, we're going to have Frievia. We need to refill the LB gauge of Wilk. So we're going to do the Magnus in the base form, and then we're going to prep 3 times to fill AoE LB. Louise is going to quad cast Ionic to fill LB gauge. Let's see here. And then Elena is going to guard. She's going to guard. And so is Zahn. Zahn is our Provoker, by the way, wearing wind resist. Okay. So turn 2, we are going to stack up Louise's LB. She is an LB stacker. So stack that up. We're going to stack up Wilk yet again. Let's see. Zahn's going to guard this turn. Sylvie is going to shift and do triple Clever. That's going to fill AoE LB gauge for the party. Because we got to keep refilling these stupid LB stackers. They're kind of irritating. And then Frievia is going to ×4 Preparation to again fill LB gauge and then just guard Elena. So there we go. Wilk is filled again. Yeah, Wilk's rotation, a little bit of a headache, but if you can fill Wilk's LB every single turn, then he only takes 6 turns to get ready. So now we're going to go ahead and do Quake Blade on Wilk. So on top of everything else, this is a 250 human killer, only physical. A physical human killer for himself. So you can obviously see the reason Zahn is here at this point. Let's see. Louise is going to stack her LB again. We did Wilk. Let's see. What else do we need to do? Now we need to do... We did Louise. Okay, we guard Elena. Zahn is going to critical the killer off of Wilk. Share it for later. And then we're just going to reload these 2. We're going to Clever 3 times and Preparation 4 times to refill LB gauge. Because again, Louise is a stacker, so is Wilk, etc., etc., etc. Some more attacks. Like this boss, the attacks are basically irrelevant because we have a big earth resist buff from Sylvie. Alright, so this turn, Wilk is going to do Vengeance. That is... Oh, not that. Vengeance. That is going to do a 90% defense break. Let's see. We're going to shift Frievia. And we're going to do End Guard and double flick. Let's see. Did I do this right? Yeah. End Guard and double flick. Let's see. What else are we doing? We are using Louise to go to the base form. We're going to Ionic 3 times. And then we're going to use Incapacitate Target to do a 90% Spirit Break. Guard Elena. Let's see. Zahn is going to just guard this turn. And then Sylvie is going to... What is Sylvie doing? Double Clever and then the Earth Magnus. Alright, so we're going to Clever twice to refill LB gauge. And then Marian's Blessing Earth. Okay. Get us ready to go for soon. And again, more just irrelevant attacks from the boss. We're immuning it all, etc. Turn 5 is going to be to the base form with Frievia. We'll do her Magnus to get her ready to burst next turn with her LB. Let's see. Starlight Elena is now going to use her base form LB. That's going to buff her modifiers. Give it a second because it's very, very laggy. So we're just going to let this finish out. Alright, what else are we doing here? Wilk isn't going to the base form. And let's see. Louise in the base form is going to use either. You can use Gallant Spirit, which is a breaker LB damage boost, or you can use Magic Boost. By my calculations, Magic Boost is more damage, but if you don't own that, one of the breaker STMRs that buffs modifiers will work as well. Let's see, what else are we doing? Sylvie is going to shift at LB. Let's see. Wilk in the base form is now going to Focused Earth. That's going to be our big Earth in Peril. We're going to Rock Style, and we're going to use his Magnus. And Zahn will just spread those buffs. The only buff we're basically spreading is the Human Killer buff. But that's now a 250 physical Human Killer on the whole party. And thankfully, Louise, Sylvie, Elena, Frievia, and both the physical units all use physical killers, so we don't have any actual real mages on this fight. So Louise is now going to shift and do her LB with the modifier boost thanks to her intrinsic. Zahn is going to do Extreme Nova. We're going to shift Wilk, and we're going to do Extreme Nova as well. Frievia is going to do base form LB. Let's see, we're going to use Elena to triple. We're going to double Gemini and Star Supernova. And Sylvie is going to triple Bolting Strike to match up with Elena. Okay, so we're going to, let's see here, we're going to send, yes. So we're going to send Frievia first, then we're going to wait just a second, send these guys, wait just a moment, and then send the Bolting Strike Chainers. And that should be a 115 count chain score, if I did it correctly, and it should be between 6 and 10 billion. 8.0, it's good enough. I'm not going to sit here and rerun this fight all day. That's exactly average. Whatever, you know, I'm not going to be perfect scoring these bosses regardless. So there's an 8 billion. It can go as high as 10. Here's the damage breakdown. It's out of curiosity who did what. So really quickly, Sylvie has 0.1 to 0.2. She did 0.1. I mean, whatever. Sylvie actually scales on defense, not on the boss's defense, not spirit. So she's actually a physical damage dealer, even though she uses spirit for her damage. Elena does between 2.3 to 3.9. She did exactly in the middle. Slightly under, actually. Her 3.1 is her average. She did slightly low. I should have rerun this fight, but at this point it's already locked in. Too late. I'm not rerunning it. Frievia goes 1.7 to 2.8. 2.2 is the average. She did below average. Great. Louise does 1.0 to 1.7. She did 1.5. Okay, Louise did slightly above. And then Zahn, nothing. And then Wilk does between 0.7 to 1.5. He did 1.1. Of course, the physical damage dealers do more damage. But anyway, yeah, there's my mage fight. That is my first and only run on that. We are not going to sweat the mage fight. So again, I could have gone as high as 10 billion, but yeah, this fight, forget it. Anyway, here's the party we used. So just make sure no one's in the negative for Earth Resist and you're fine. Base form, kind of whatever on Sylvie. Shift form is technically geared for damage. So here we go. But because like I said, she is a physical damage dealer. So on a mage fight, she's pretty worthless. As far as damage, obviously she was very important for her buffs. Max Human Killer, and the problem was she scales on the boss's defense. Starlight Elena, double-handed sword build, you know, the Dazzle card, killers versus human, decent attack and magic. There we go, chain cap up, etc. Her intrinsic, and she's got maxed on human killer, and she did the most damage, but she rolled very low that attempt. Feels irritated, but there it is, and we didn't use the shift. Frievia in the base form is just LB damage versus humans. She gears for this extremely easily. She almost auto caps it. Let's see. So maxed LB damage and maxed human killer, and then shift form is just whatever, basically not even used. Louise in the base form is using either something like the presidential livery or something like Magic Boost, and make sure you give her the intrinsic in both forms, and some LB fill, etc. And she, in the base form, it's like a breaker, a buffer, etc. Shift form, LB damage versus humans, but because I gave the Dazzle card to Elena, Louise's gear was garbage. She is very hard to gear double hand, but you gotta gear double hand if you want to deal good damage. And she basically really requires the Dark Rain card that I don't have. So her damage was terrible. 250 LB and 300 human, and very low stats because I don't have the Dark Rain card. Zahn was our passive provoker. High wind resist and evasion. Other than that, whatever. Extreme Nova to support chain. You could have also used his LB, but I just give the materials because why not? And then Wilk, base form, using the axe. Shift form, this one you have to use the axe. I know I just said in the previous video you can pick axe or fist. You have to use the axe for Wilk, because axe is what ties to his 250 human killer buff. If you're using the fist, you won't have access to his 250 human buff. And he has maxed everything. Maxed LB damage versus humans, and maxed, and yeah, he did, you know, he outdamaged Louise on this fight, which is kind of funny. But anyway, yep, there was the mage fight. I'll post a turn chart in the comments, and now I'm going to go over and do like 1 or 2 runs on the final boss, and then I am done with this dumb Dark Visions. See you in a bit.